Female Fluence. We are a place of women empowering women. This is a safe environment where females are not judged nor afraid to flourish. My goal is to help you live an energized life of balance, whether as a mom, a wife, or in your profession. It is time to have self-worth and self-compassion. Live in the present moment and surround yourself with only healthy connections. So join me, Pearl Shua, a woman empowerment life coach, an educator, and a mother of 3 to help take you on a journey of true identity and inspiration. Abandoning your dreams represents one of the simplest and most certain ways to ensure failure. We often surrender when challenges arise, when we lose hope, when the fear of failure looms, when the path to success appears uncertain, we just give up. If you have a life goal, consider it an adventurous journey. Some days will be effortless, while others you may regret ever embarking on this journey. It's a roller coaster ride, and that's okay. No matter how enthusiastic or optimistic you are, discouragement may creep in, urging you to quit before achieving significant success. However, if you succumb to this temptation and everything comes to a stop, it comes to an end. And the words give and up should not coexist in your mindset. The underlying reality is that when you contemplate giving up, there exists untapped inner strength within you, a reserve you may not have fully realized. That's why during those moments of despair, when we find ourselves in a dark place, it's essential to remind ourselves of our strengths and untapped potential. For this reason, today we are in for a special treat because we have Ahyiana Angel as a guest on my podcast. Ahyiana Angel is a CEO of Maisie Media, and as a result of her own career transitions from NBA publicist to author, as well as the host of the Switch, Pivot, or Quit podcast, her work has impacted corporate spaces like Google and has been featured by Forbes, Entrepreneur, and Create and Cultivate. She's also the author of this book, Quit Playing Small, which I have right here, which is a book that will inspire action, evoke emotion, and spark ideas to achieve greatness. It's a collection of inspiration for readers who are ready to push themselves past their limits to reach their greatest potential. In this way, she followed her passion for writing to find her purpose in encouragement. Welcome, Ahyiana. I'm so grateful to have you on my show today on Female Fluence. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Pearl. Wow, what an intro.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's dive in and get to know you a lot better. Can you first tell us about your journey, about what you did before? How did you listen to that internal dialogue to make that huge career transformation, and just what led you to where you are today following your passion?
Sure. So I first realized that I wanted to be a creative when I was younger, but that didn't seem like an option based on my parents and what they thought would be a lucrative career. And, your parents try and condition you to be able to get some type of career that will sustain you, that will make you money, all of those things. And so once I had done all the things that I felt like was expected of me, then I started to feel this pull to do something else, that there had to be more out there for me, but I just needed to lean into what it looked like. And I wasn't happy in my day-to-day. I did not feel like my career path that I was on aligned with the person that I was getting to know and understand myself to be. And so I started off trying things. I started off, taking classes, just leaning into interests that I had. And then eventually I got to a point where I said, okay, you've always wanted to write this book. You should try. And so I wrote my first book, and it was a novel called Preseason Love. And I feel like that sparked what I needed in me to say, you can complete something else outside of what your norm is, and that the creative spark that you've always felt you had inside of you still lives in there,
Mhm.
and you got to do something with it. So what are you going to do? And that was kind of like that crossroads where it was a challenge for me to go the path that I had been on and try and find maybe a similar type of role just at a different company, or to really bet on myself and try something else. And so obviously I took the latter, bet on myself, tried something else. The something else was me completely quitting a career that I had become comfortable in.
Right.
And that was familiar, and stepping outside of everything that I knew and really looking other people's judgment and their questions and everything in the face and saying, I'm still going to move forward in this direction because right now I feel like it's what's best for me. And so that has opened up doors for me that I could not have imagined. If I had not taken that chance on myself, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now having this conversation, right? There's so many things that I would
Right.
not have realized my full potential in. So I'm very glad that I took that chance, and that chance has brought me to where we are today and a lot of the things that you mentioned.
That's incredible. And I just feel like it takes so much courage to really like listen to your own internal voice. But then the key is to block out the voice of others, all the judgment, everyone's advice, what their opinions are. That makes it really challenging, I think, too, to be
Yeah.
able to figure that out, because a lot of times those voices kind of shut down your own internal voice, or it pushes you because you're so scared about taking such a big risk.
Yeah, but I think that the more you get to know yourself, the easier it becomes to shut out those voices, to
Mhm.
shut out the outside voices, because your internal voice is so strong and it's telling you that you have no choice but to follow it because it knows what's best for you. Once you really start to understand and learn yourself, you really know what your options are. And a lot of times, the other things that people are trying to put in front of you, you can easily say no to those things because you really start to understand this is not an option for me. This may be a great option for somebody else,
Right.
but not for me because of what I know to be true about myself. For example, because I know when I say things like that, it sounds a little woo woo woo. Sometimes get to know yourself and you'll really know what's possible for you or what you do or don't like. I was working in PR as a publicist. A lot of what a publicist does is reach out to people, see if they're interested in a story that you have. That reaching out is built on relationships, right? You're creating those relationships, but everything at the end of the day is transactional. Sometimes you need reporters, sometimes they need you. The roles switch. What I started to realize is that in order to do that job successfully, I had to be almost a nag times to people when I did not want to be. I
Right.
had to be relentless about following up and trying to be persuasive about things that I didn't even feel super passionate about. So I had to ask myself, is this who you are? Once I realized that those characteristics that were required for that role were not in alignment with my personality, with how I move every day, with how I operate outside of work, once I started to realize that those things weren't in alignment, it was much easier for me to tell other people, no, this is no longer the path for me.
Right.
It does not feel good for me. It
Just
is
open up
not.
your eyes.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to have clarity about what you will and won't do because you know yourself. And so you can see very clearly that this is not a path that's going to bring you the kind of fruits of your labor that you would
Right.
expect. Yeah.
That's a great example. I think that's one of the reasons that they say you really need to figure out yourself, and your values. Like make a list of your, top 5 or top 10 values. And then that way you kind of can figure out what's important to you and what direction you want to go in life. Because a lot of times people have never done that. They have no idea. They're just either maybe following the path that their parents have kind of pushed them, or maybe one job led to another. They never reflected back on, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah. Is this me?
Yeah.
And I think when I did that values exercise, because I did it at some point, I had to actually Google what are values,
Right.
because this was a time where all the self-help and all the podcasts and everything, they were not plentiful. That information was just not at your fingertips like it is right
Like it is
now.
right now, right?
Yeah. And you didn't have all these conversations swirling around you. So I was like, okay, I think I know what values are, but let me just double check. And then I really sat down like, okay, what are my values? And when you really start to interrogate yourself and ask those questions, you may even uncover more than just conclusions about your career. You may also uncover conclusions about your relationships and how you interact with other people, who you want to surround yourself with, what type of life you want to live. All of those things start to really creep in and reveal themselves in small ways for some people, in large ways for other people, because you can start to see, like, for example, if someone's listening to this podcast and they're like, she's right, what are my values? I don't know. What are values? Values are the things that govern how you show up in this world, how you act, how you move, the things that are important to you. And so for me, like, one of my values was my family. Okay, but I was working in a job that only allowed me to see my family once a year,
Oh
maybe.
gosh. Wow.
Yeah, because I was living in New York, which I still live in New York now, but my family is in California. I'm from California. So I would
I'm in
only get to,
California.
that's why it's nice and sunny there
Yes.
where you are. But that I would only get to see them once a year sometimes,
Yeah.
most times, really. And then it came down to a point where in my old job, it was said to me that I was only going to get 2 days off before Christmas and 1 day off after Christmas. And so that was the schedule and it was set already. And I was like, oh, I'm used to going home the whole week of like Christmas and even the week after, because that's the only time
Right.
I get to spend with my family. And I also have to sacrifice my vacation time and save it for that time period. And I remember feeling so, walking out of that conversation, feeling so deflated, feeling like, how could this happen to me? What am I going to do? And at that moment, that was one of those critical moments for me where I had to decide what was important to me. And that just helped to add to the list of the reasons why I could no longer stay where I was.
Right.
I wasn't going to get what I needed out of that situation. And if I valued family, they were taking that away from me, that critical time. And so you have to start to really
Right.
understand what's important to you. So that's just an example of how your values can play into your day to day.
That's a great example. That is so difficult. I can't even imagine. We don't see it because a lot of these jobs can be so glamorous and whatnot, but then you don't really see what's happening within and how it's impacting the person who's working so hard, and their actual, like, they have a life outside of
Yeah.
they should have, right?
What the trade-offs are. You don't really see what
You
the
don't know the
trade-offs are.
trade-offs at all.
Yeah.
Now, it's so funny because I remember seeing you at the work conference years ago, and you came on stage, and this is a reason I reached out to you, because you stood out to me from all the other speakers. Because realistically, I remember I was like, I'm taking notes and writing everything, and your energy, and I wrote, like, I highlighted, and I'm like, oh my God, she was the best, because I came out of there like feeling inspired and just so pumped up, because your energy was so contagious on stage. It really was. I'm being honest with you. I mean, you were just like incredible. So, and I remember you spoke about, in order to shine, you have to actually be uncomfortable to do that. So what does that exactly mean? What does it mean to be uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm. So a part of where this comes from, this idea of shining, if anybody follows me, engages with me, they'll hear that I say things like shine or keep shining. I'll say that to people in Instagram comments and stuff, because it's important to me. And it's something that's seeded into my ecosystem. And it's because I was used to being a publicist. I was used to being behind the scenes. I was used to making other people shine. And being a publicist, a lot of behind the scenes jobs, they're very thankless jobs. People don't know what your contribution is, right? Unless you tell them.
Right.
And so I realized that when I started to develop my own personal brand, I had to push myself out there in a way that I hadn't been out there before. And I realized that if I wanted to get to a certain level or achieve some of the things that I envisioned for myself, I would have to allow myself to shine. I would have to allow myself to be seen. I would have to allow myself to be in the forefront where I was used to playing the background. And so many of us get accustomed to playing the background in all different aspects of our lives, our familial relationships, our partnership relationships, our jobs. We're used to playing the background, being the support system. We start to forget how to shine. We don't even know what that feels like anymore. When the spotlight is on us, big or small, we're like, what am I supposed to do? Instead of taking your moment and walking into it. And so for me, I just feel like I want to remind people that it's okay to shine. You should shine. It's also okay to shine a light on other people. But when you feel empowered to shine, you don't hesitate to shine the light on other people because you know that nothing next to you, in front of you, behind you is going to take away from your shine. It's coming from inside, within you, because you're confident. You're pouring into yourself. You're doing things every day that's going to allow you to be the best version of you, whatever that looks like. And as long as you're operating in your best, you're going to keep shining. And so for me, I had to realize all of these things. And so I said, okay, it's one thing that I'm getting from doing my own personal work is that it is really hard to shine and be successful if you're not willing to be seen, if you're not willing to be heard, if you're not willing to put yourself out there and step out of your comfort zone in certain instances, because shining and being at the forefront means that you have to do things that are going to make your stomach churn a little bit. It's going to be intimidating a little bit. But once you get through it, you feel this exhilarating feeling. It's like, I want to do it again. Sign me up. Let's go. You know, that moment that you talked about me coming out on the stage, I was nervous.
You didn't seem like it at all. You were incredible.
You know, I had to push through because I said, you know, there's what I always remember is that none of this is an accident. There is somebody that needs to hear what I have to say. So I have to show up for that person and I have to deliver this message in a way that they can receive it. There's so many people that have the gift of delivering a message, but some people connect with one person more than they connect with another person. So it's my job to show up for the people who will be able to connect with me. And so I do it shaking. I do it with my stomach churning. Every time I'm getting prepared for a speaking engagement, I'm like, why did I say yes to this?
But then you feel great afterwards, right?
Yes.
Such a great feeling.
Yes. You feel good. You feel this high, really, because you have just used your voice. You've used your gifts and talents. Hopefully you've imparted something or said something that resonated.
If you have resonated, you know, if you've impacted one person, that's how I always see it. Like even with like my podcast, I have even one person who's listening says, oh gosh, like this is what I need to do. I need to shift my mindset. I need to shine. I need to grow. I need to evolve. I need to quit my job. Then I've done my job, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So it can be intimidating to shine, but it's necessary for us to grow as well.
But you also have made it into, there's a shine test that we need to put our ideas through the shine test so that they can be successful. And then the acronyms for the word shine, if you can tell us more about that.
Yeah. So the shine test, that's something that I came up with on a walk one day. And it all ties into this same thing, right? So if you have an idea, you have something that you're thinking of doing, something that's been, you know, maybe ruminating in the back of your mind and you're like, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? You're questioning it. The shine test, I feel like, is a great way for you to start vetting the idea, for you to start seeing, okay, what could this be? So the S stands for, should I do it? So you're asking yourself that question. This is something you've probably already been asking yourself, but now you take it the next step further. You start writing down some or typing out some of the ideas, some of the thoughts, why you should do it, right? Start convincing yourself, because this may come in handy when you start second guessing yourself. You go back to that, should I do it? And these are all the reasons that I should do it. Okay, let me keep going. It's gotten hard, but let me keep going. And then the H in the shine test is, how would I do it? So now you're starting to plant the seeds of, what would this look like? I've convinced myself that I should do it, but what is this going to look like if I do it? that is just a rough way to start a roadmap. The way that I look at it is a lot of times things feel so much bigger and cumbersome when you haven't even started. If I'm going to write a book, if I at least start outlining the chapters, I've started somewhere.
Yes.
Now I don't feel like I got to go and just write this whole book from scratch and I don't even know what to put in it. Okay, let me use my outline as a guide. So it's you starting. How would I do it is you starting somewhere, right? Then the next thing you want to consider and think about, and maybe jot some notes about, is it innovative for you? Not is it innovative for the world? Is it innovative for you? Is it something different for you? Is it something outside of your comfort zone? Is it something that people would gravitate to because you are doing it? Maybe there's a certain skill set that you have that's aligned with this idea or this thing that you're thinking about doing. Jot that down. All of this is, you're jotting all of this down because you want to have paperwork to convince yourself later, okay? Or a digital footprint to convince yourself later. And then the next thing is the end, and you're asking yourself, is there a need for it? This is where you're kind of doing that assessment of the audience, right? Assessment of the audience, assessment of the landscape. If it's a business, okay, what do the competitors look like? What does the landscape around this business look like? You know, what is the viability for this being something that other people need, right? Is there a need for it? The need could also be personal. It could also be an internal need and not necessarily an external need. You could have the need to do this because it fulfills a life purpose of yours.
Right.
You could have the need to do this because it feels a life goal of yours. Whatever the need is, lean into it, identify it. And then finally, identify what your expectations are. Just be honest. My next book, I'm telling you all right now, my next book, my expectation is to be a New York Times bestselling author. I want that book to be a New York Times book. I want it to be on the list. Does that feel like to say? Yes, it does. But it's my realistic expectation. And if I am not honest with myself about what my expectations are of something that I'm doing, that I'm giving my hard work to, my effort, my brain power, my energy to, if I'm not realistic about what my expectations are, why am I doing it? Who am I lying for? If I'm not, I don't need to try to fool myself, right? I need to be honest as I can with myself. So then I can operate out of that expectation instead of putting out into the universe things that I halfway want or don't really want, and then expecting to get some results that line up bigger than that. No, I didn't really say, and I wasn't really honest about what my needs are from this, what my expectations are from this. And so I can't get fully what I really want. So be honest about your expectations. And that brings you through the shine test. And I feel like once you answer all of those questions and think through all of those prompts, you'll have a better foundation of where to go with this idea. And if it's a viable idea and something that you should really put your energy and your effort into.
I think that was one incredible walk that you came up with all of this.
No.
That's actually, I mean, really inspiring. I mean, that's really a good way because it's so short and sweet, and you can automatically say, okay, let me go through each step of the word shine and see if this is actually something I would like to pursue and do more into or not, or just it's not something that it's aligned with me, or there's no need for it. Right. So what a great idea.
Thank you. And maybe it's like a not right now, right?
Right.
Maybe if you're being honest about your expectations, when you get to that last part, the E, maybe you're like, I'm not ready for this. Maybe this is a part 2 or phase 2 of however my evolution is going to go.
Right. Where your journey is going.
Yeah, it gives you the space to be able to identify that too, though.
Right. And break it down.
Yeah,
Very nice. You also wrote your book. Why did you decide to write this book? And what does the title mean? Quit playing small.
Quit playing small. Okay, so quit playing small came from me wanting to create something for my podcast community. Switch, Pivot, or Quit is this podcast I've been running since 2017. And I was like, We talk about morning routines and things like that. And I want to be able to give something to my community that they can use in their morning routine because we're all so busy. Sometimes we wake up and the world is already running us, right? And so I just wanted something small that people can take and dive into and then get right out of it just as quickly. It doesn't have to be, taking up 30 minutes of your morning routine. It could be 5 minutes, 2 minutes sometimes. So this was the inspiration for the writings that are in Quit Playing Small. And what I included in the Quit Playing Small book is just things that I've learned, things that I've experienced, things that I would have wanted to know, things that I feel like I just gotta share this. So I'm hoping, and I've been hoping since I released it, that it's something that will give fuel and inspire, but something that people can say like, okay, I can take this and walk away with this.
Right.
This is something I never thought about before. This is another way to think about it. Let me spend some time on that. And quit playing small for me, it just means that we are all conditioned and trained to be achievers and doers, right? And at a certain point, we think like, well, I'm not playing small. I've done this, this, and this, right? Like you can start reading off your resume. But there comes a time when we are all operating out of a version of ourselves that's maybe behind a little fear, behind a little intimidation, behind something that's potentially holding us back. We're not really stepping up like we could be. This may not happen all the time, but it happens sometimes. And so this is my effort to just remind you, quit playing small. When you're sitting in the meeting, speak up for yourself. Quit playing small. When you're talking to a potential business partner about something, speak up for yourself. Quit playing small. When you're thinking about, do I want to shine in this thing? Do I want to step from out of the shadows? This is hopefully your reminder. Quit playing small. So it's a bunch of different lessons and things that I've learned and things that I know to be true compiled in a book, just to hopefully help us to push ourselves out there a little bit more.
And it's the title itself. I just feel like it's a constant reminder. Just if you can just remember the title, just anytime you're, feeling timid and insecure, it's like, no, I got to get back up. I have to quit playing small. So
Yes.
great
Yes.
title. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, what does it mean when you say anti-person versus an open person? Can you offer a comprehensive explanation about that?
Yeah. So this is another thing that I realized. I was like, if you're on a journey of change and you're trying to invite different things in your life, it's hard to change when you're operating out of opposition. It's hard to change when you're looking at things through a narrow lens. And a lot of times when we're operating from a space of we're looking at things through a narrow lens,
Right.
even a negative lens sometimes, yes, right? Yes. We're saying no before we say yes. We're not pausing, considering, thinking about, and then saying whatever our answer is. We're just automatically against. And that is operating from a space of being anti. And I have to check myself as well because I can fall into that pattern. And I do feel like it's a pattern. I feel like once you start going in that direction, it's so easy to coast along in that direction, right? To be against everything, everybody, especially against anything new. Anything that's going to challenge you, anything that's going to push you outside of your comfort zone, it's an automatic
You're just not open to it, right?
Not open to it. And I'll give you an example of something super simple. And this is one of the things that made me like have this aha moment of you can't be anti and growing. Going out to a restaurant. You go out to a restaurant somewhere you've never been before. There's a plethora of things on the menu. There's some things that are familiar and some things that are unfamiliar, right? Your friends, they're like, let's try frog legs as an appetizer. They're on the menu. Let's try them, right? And immediately you say, no, I don't do frog legs. I don't eat them. I never have. I never will. No. instead of being open to say, this is not really my jam, not something normal for me,
Right.
but
I'll try it. Yeah.
try it. Even if it's the tiniest little bit,
Exactly.
I'll
Exactly.
try it. That is you being open. You being anti is sitting at that table and being committed to the no, even when everybody else is indulging, trying, laughing, having the experience. You are taking the experience away from yourself too. That's one thing that you cannot participate in, the joy of trying something new with that group, because you just took that away from yourself
Right.
by being anti. So that's what I mean when I say being anti
I
versus
think that's
being
great.
open.
It stops you from growing and evolving. So that's a very good
Absolutely.
point. There's another part in your book that you stated, allow another woman's success to be the motivation to let your light radiate from your soul, even if it's too bright for those around you. And I really resonated and loved this statement, because oftentimes we compare ourselves to others to kind of create a negative talk for ourselves. And you're stating it, you're telling us that we can actually use comparison to feel inspired. So how do we go about doing that? I really love that.
Yeah. So a lot of times we're comparing because we feel less than in some way. You know, it's like I'm comparing because I need to make myself feel good about whoever I'm comparing myself to. Like I need to make myself feel like I have achieved what they have achieved. I have the looks that they have, maybe the education, the intellect, whatever it is, right? But the way to reframe it is look at them in admiration. Look at them and see what you can glean from them. Think about how beneficial it will be to be in relationship with them, maybe. And if we're talking about and adding in that little sprinkle of seasoning of manifestation and speaking things into existence, what if you were to, even if you don't know this person, don't know if you would ever meet them, instead of comparing yourself to them and coming up with a negative end result, why not say, wow, it'd be amazing to meet her. It would be amazing to be in community with her. It would be so life-changing for her to be my friend. You're putting that in the atmosphere now. Who knows if you will come across that person one
Right.
day, whether it's by your own actions or just sheer the universe just made it happen. And now you're able to be in relationship with them. But if you sat there and you continuously compared yourself and chopped her down just to make yourself feel better, how would you feel about being in relationship with her, even if you had the opportunity? It wouldn't be the same.
No.
It would not be the same. So it's like use other women as a motivation, even to get to where you think you might want to be, if you think that there's somewhere that you're not.
Right.
And it doesn't have to mean that they are higher in this hierarchy of life, if it even exists, because I don't believe that it does. But even if you feel that they are higher in that hierarchy, you don't have to buy into it. You don't have to play that game.
Right.
You can say, okay, well, I'm realizing that I'm feeling these feelings. How can I build myself up to feel just as special as this person, just as worthy as this person, and then start operating out of that space, and then revisit looking at that person and assessing them and see how you feel. You'll probably feel different. This person could
I think
be
you would totally feel different. I think if we can just learn to, I mean, if we can make ourselves learn from them instead of just having this attitude, it can be a great experience and we can grow from that.
absolutely. And just that goes back to the anti too, right?
Yes, exactly.
Being open to and checking yourself as soon as you start having those negative thoughts. Why do I have these negative thoughts? Why do I think that I need to compare myself to this person? Let me be open to this person and what the universe has aligned or lined up for me and this person. Who knows what it could be? I may end up working with them one day.
Right.
Let me pay attention to her now so that I can see how she moves, so that when we get the opportunity to work together, I'll have an inside track already. I'll know exactly what to do and how to move.
Right. I love that. That's great. That's a great tip. Now, what do we do when we try to push ourselves and then we keep continuously getting rejected over and again? What steps can we take to kind of help believe in ourselves again and get over that self-doubt, because that's always hard to do, right? If it's so many rejections over and over, there's a point
Yeah.
that you can really spiral down.
Yeah, there is definitely a point where you can spiral down, and I don't know that there's a surefire way to work through rejection, because I think everyone is different and our life experiences are different, right?
Right.
Somebody who's used to rejection, they're used to being the underdog. They may treat rejection completely different than someone who's used to winning and used to
Right.
being on top, right? So I think one of the first things, excuse me, that I would do is really be honest with how I feel about this rejection. Am I taking it personal, or am I looking at it like a circumstantial thing? Like, really be honest with myself, because I think that's the start of where you can go down the spiral, is when you start taking it personal. And then if you identify that you're taking it personal, why? Why am I taking? Just start interrogating it more, because you might come to the conclusion finally, after you interrogate it, that it's not about you. It has nothing to
Nothing.
do with you. Yeah. And rejection, we all know it is a part of life, and there could be some woo-woo way to spin it. And rejection is just another door that's open for you. Okay, but it's not going to feel like that when it happens, right? It's not going to feel like that. So I feel like the best thing to do is acknowledge it, and then interrogate your feelings about it, and do whatever it is you were already doing to pour into yourself to build yourself back up. Whether that's having a good pep talk with a mentor, or having a good, breakdown session with one of your good friends, and just kind of acknowledging, I feel horrible about this,
Right.
or if that is going on your walk and doing your affirmations and building yourself back up, that if that's taking yourself to a spa day or something to treat yourself, to let you know, like, to reaffirm that I am worthy. I'm worthy of all the amazing things in this world, despite whatever is said by anybody else, It looks different for all of us, but I would say interrogate first. Why do you feel this way? Acknowledge those feelings, acknowledge first, interrogate second, and then do whatever it is you were doing anyway, whatever practice you've built to pour into yourself, because you just need to pour into yourself a bit.
Right. And just kind of recharge and restart.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe because we all know, like I said, we all know it's a part of life. It's the thing. These are always things that are going to come across our path.
And it
If
will
you
make you
never,
stronger.
Yeah. And if you never get rejected for anything, that means you're not actually going after things. You're probably not trying hard enough. You're probably not putting yourself out there enough, or stepping outside of your comfort zone. I mean, if let's say you got rejected from a job application or a job process because you weren't the most qualified. Okay, so then take that in. What do I want to do to then become the most qualified for this position? Or does it matter to me? Really ask yourself these real questions. Because if it doesn't even matter to you, if you don't want to do what it
And
takes to
right.
get that, then that rejection should mean nothing to you.
Nothing.
Because you didn't really want it in the first place. Because if you really wanted it, you would have made sure that you were qualified, overqualified, prepared, overprepared, whatever it was that you were missing, you would have made sure that you had that when you stepped into that situation. Sometimes that's another thing I must point out. Sometimes we operate out of expectation of getting things that we actually don't deserve. We got to be real with ourselves.
So you have to have realistic expectations. Exactly.
Yeah. Just because you want it doesn't mean that you deserve it.
Yeah.
Especially
That's
if you're
a great point.
Yeah, especially if you're talking about the difference between you getting it and somebody else getting it. Maybe they actually do deserve it.
Right.
And once you can get past your own ego, you can see that. Going back to what we said about comparison and competition, see how you can befriend that person. If you have the privilege of knowing who that person is, see how you can befriend that person. See how you can learn from that person. Find out their tips that give them an advantage or that extra edge. And let's just say it's a job, right?
Right.
Somebody else gets a job. You have no clue who it is who got that job. Go on LinkedIn, do a quick search for that position or that role, that company. Couple months later, you should be able to find out who's in that role. Reach out to that person. You don't even have to say anything like, I tried for that job. You can just reach out to them and say, I admire the position that you have, where you are in life. I would really love to connect. I'm in the same industry, whatever it is. And just take it and run with it and use it as an opportunity to make a connection that'll make you stronger that you didn't have before.
That's a great idea. Really good. No, I love it. How about when we feel out of our comfort zone, when we're venturing into something new, but this time we're fearful and uncertain. It's uncomfortable, which it should be because that means we're trying. But how do we overcome that second guessing and fearing? And especially if, how do we know when it's the right time if we are that person who wants to switch, pivot, or quit our job? How do we make that career transformation and listen to our, inner voice? Because it's scary. I know that's a fully loaded question, but I think it's important.
It is a fully loaded question, and it is scary. It is scary, but I'll come back to what we started at the top of the conversation talking about. What has your interrogation of yourself and you getting to know yourself, what have you learned? What has it taught you? What do you know to be true? Once you know those things to be true, then you can't let yourself down. And so you have to look at it like, I had this thought the other day. It's like, I owe myself everything that I have aspired to. I owe myself those things. And so if I look at it like I owe myself those things, how can I shy away from an opportunity to push myself? And I know that it might give me those things that I said I owe myself. I can't. I have to do it a little bit intimidated. I have to do it a little bit afraid. I have to push through because I owe this to myself. I don't owe it to anybody else. And let's think of it in real practical terms, right? If there's a house that you say you want to live in, a certain type of house in a certain type of neighborhood, or if there's a certain type of lifestyle that you want to lead, you don't ever want to have to cook. You want to be able to hire a chef. If these are things that you say that you want, and this is what you envision for your future, how can you then turn around and say, I'm not going to apply for that job. I'm not going to apply for that grant. I'm not going to reach out to that person who I know could help me and potentially impact my career in a great way. What? What do you know? What do you mean maybe next time? These are the things that you said you wanted. And this is you talking to yourself, right? These are the conversations you have to have with yourself. These are the things that you said you wanted. This is the life that you said you want. How are you going to get it if you stay right here? How are you going to get it if you don't go out there and ask the question, put yourself in the position, go after where you are? How are you going to get it? You're not going to get it. So the choice that you're making right now is not, should I reach out to this person or not? Is, do I want the life that I said I want or not? And you keep reminding yourself of those things. And I think it makes it gives you a little bit more perspective, and it makes it a little bit easier to say, okay, let me just push through. Let me just do it. Let me just do it. Let me just see what happens. And when it comes to making a switch, pivot, or quit, there is no easy answer. Right. It is an evolution. It is growth. It is you really starting with self and understanding what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And then taking action based off of what you've learned. But there's a number of things that have to go into play in order for you to say, boom, this makes sense for me to do this now. Nobody can tell you when it's time for you to go, when it's time for you to stay, when it's time for you to pivot, when it's time for you to make a switch, pivot, or quit, period. No one can tell you, oh, this is the time right now. You feel it, you know it in your gut. And it doesn't mean that you have everything planned out and that's how you know. It just means that it's a feeling that you cannot deny anymore. I cannot stay in this place that I'm in. It is more uncomfortable for me to stay in this place that I am in than it is for me to get out there and try something different.
So pretty much it goes back to, again, checking in with ourselves having those internal conversations. Listeners, we need to talk to ourselves, have that conversation, check in constantly. And again, your values, what's important to you, to figure out if you rather just stay in this job and stick it out, or this is just not how you see yourself, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Also, so now there is internal and there's external success, right? So what is the difference between that? And then if you can tell us what is success personally mean to you, because it means different things to different people.
So internal versus external success. External success to me is the things that other people can see and quantify based on barely knowing you, right? Or maybe even knowing you. This is the job title that you have, the assets that you have, the accolades that you have, the clothes that you wear, the places you vacation. All of these things to me represent external success.
Right.
Because someone may look at you and have the perception that you're successful.
Right.
That also may be what you hinge your success on, right? Internal success to me is going back to everything we just talked about. Is your life aligning with your values? When you wake up, are you happy in the space that you wake up in? Are you happy with the people that you're surrounded by? Do you have a smile on your face? Are you validated by being the best person that you can be when you show up? Are you feeling like you have won the lottery? You know what I mean? Like, of life. Like when you feel things within yourself and you're questioning, how do I feel? If you feel really, really good, if you feel like you are doing your best, if you feel like you are surrounding yourself with the best people, if you feel like I have so much love in my life, I don't know what to do with it. Like if you are feeling all these things, then to me, that is you establishing your internal success. And so the external and the internal are very simple. It's what the other people can see and quantify for the external, and the internal is what you can see and quantify and feel more so, let's say. And so for me, what do I deem as success for me? I feel like there are days when I go back and forth, right? Because I think externally, I am successful. Internally, I am successful one week, and then I'm questioning it the next week.
Oh, true. Right.
And I think it's also because like there will be a week where I realize all the amazing things that I have surrounding me. Like my wonderful parents who are so supportive, have been supportive since the day that I said I was quitting my job and embarking on something new. They had no idea what it was going to look like, but they have been so supportive. My family who's always cheering me on, my friends who are always cheering me on, the people who constantly look to me to offer me opportunities to elevate, to grow, to be, to shine, really, right? I feel immensely successful. Like this morning, I got to wake up and say, you know what? I'm going to start my day with, instead of laying on my mat, I'm going to do my meditation by walking in Central Park this morning. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for a walk. Luckily, the garden, this garden that they had under construction for like 2+ years, it was open finally. Beautiful. When I tell you, so beautiful, it just filled me up so much. I was like, I wish I could just bottle this feeling I have right now. That made me feel successful because I had the ability to wake up and decide how I wanted to ease into my day. And I chose to take a beautiful walk in Central Park. The ability to be able to do that makes me feel successful. But then there are other days where I wake up and I'm like, what is happening today? Or what haven't I done? What didn't I get done?
Or you're stressed
yesterday?
out and you're overwhelmed, or you're not feeling well. Health is another huge factor, right?
Yes, yes, all of those things. So I feel like as a society, we put a lot of emphasis on the word success and whether we feel it or not, or whether someone has achieved it or not. But I think that it ebbs and flows just like everything else in life. And sometimes we feel very connected with being successful, and sometimes we don't.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, that happens to me too. And I can completely resonate with you. First of all, I started my day meditating too, but on my balcony, not at Central Park.
Oh, I love the balcony
Amazing. Yes.
though.
That just sounds amazing. But yes, I feel like it is really up to you. And there are days that we have to remind ourselves. I mean, that's why like I have a gratitude journal, because I might wake up and I might be stressed out about, oh, I didn't get this done yesterday. And I just feel I have such a crazy day today. And I just kind of check back to like, write down three things that either I'm grateful for that happened already from the day before or happening now. And it just kind of puts you back in
Yeah.
alignment and saying, okay, what are you saying? Like, you have so much to be grateful for. Like, what's the problem here? You're healthy. You woke up and you feel great. There you go.
Hmm.
That's just that's the best reason to be happy this today. So it really,
Yeah.
we just have to, as long as we check in and figure it out. But of course, there are days that it fluctuates and,
Hmm.
we feel not so successful or just exhausted. And you expressed that really well. I think
Thank
that was
you.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're right, though. You're right. You're spot on. We're on the same page.
Yes, we are. We are. So basically, to wrap up, I think we
Hmm.
should look fear in the face because we are
Okay.
ready to shine, since our greatest success lives behind our greatest fear. Most importantly, we need to be on the hunt for who we have not yet become, because this is the best mission ever. We must commit to quit playing small and instead envision a life filled with abundance. We can conclude that success, like we talked about, means different things to different people. We need to know what success means personally to ourselves. But at the core, we feel most successful when our accomplishments align with our goals and our values. Now, I actually want to just take a few minutes to share some of my favorite inspirations from the book for our listeners. You have to purchase the book to get the full effect, but there's a few parts, as you can see, that I have kind of marked down.
Is it okay if I record you for
Of
Instagram?
course, of course.
Okay.
Okay. So your mind will believe everything you tell it. The complexity of a mind can have you riding high, believing that you can conquer the world one day and slumped on the couch, dreading life the next. We can take ourselves through a range of emotions within a limited time frame. The realities of the human brain and its power in action. So, what will you do with all that power? Determining how you will manage the power within you requires an awareness that exists. People often talk about the mindset because it truly matters, and it is an element of your being that is well within your control. Developing the awareness to train and retrain your mindset to explain things in a way that is most healthy for your existence is a powerful tool. It may not always be easy, but you can control your mindset, which clarifies your reality and allows you to react. Don't underestimate your power to impact your reality. Then I have another section.
Love this. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
oh God, this is amazing.
Surround yourself with people you want to see. As life happens, your support system is crucial. Oh, I love this. When things get difficult, it is empowering to know that you have a team of people behind you rooting for you to win, not secretly waiting for you to fall or fail. I would rather have supportive strangers around me than fake friends any day. With that in mind, be keenly aware of who you share your big goals and plans with. And last but not least, we go back to comparison. If you don't regularly check in on yourself, those feelings allow the comparison game to creep into your psyche. Comparing your accomplishments to your peers, comparing your life, that's a big one, to those you see only online. You can enjoy the journey more when you remove comparison. You are you for a reason. You are learning the lessons meant for you. You are gaining the knowledge meant for you. You are growing into the individual that you are meant to be. There is no race to become the best version of you. Nobody can beat you at becoming the best you. Keep looking straight ahead and go at your own pace. I just love it. I think it's a great book just to have on the nightstand and for those days, or even for your morning routine. You have self-doubt, you don't feel good about yourself, you're having a rough day, just glance, read a page and get back right up.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you are very welcome. This has been so great. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
I think the last thing that I'll share is that, sometimes we can be inspired in ways that we didn't even realize. We just have to be open for it, right? Having this conversation with you today has re-energized me. I've been working on this Switch, Pivot, or Quit book for like the last 2 weeks. And this conversation re-energized me. It inspired me more to say, I have to get this message out there. I have to get these words out there. And like I told you guys earlier, I have to be a New York Times bestseller when I do it.
Yes, you can. I love it. You can and you will.
Thank you.
I'm so glad. I'm really, really glad. How can others find more information about you?
You can check out my website, which is ahyianaangel.com, and that's AHYIANA Angel, ANGEL.com. And that's all the places where you can figure out how to listen to the podcast, how to order the books, how to follow me on Instagram. I tend to have a good time on Instagram. That's the main social platform I hang out on. I'm just me. Okay. I do stupid stuff. I sing, whatever, but I also bring some of the realness that you need for our day-to-day inspiration as well. So come check me out.
I love it. So we will share all the links in our show notes. And to our listeners, do not forget to shine. Keep shining. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today to Female Fluence. Together, we can influence and motivate other mind-like females. Your job is to feel alive, be in control, and always be true to your own self. Please don't forget to subscribe so you can continue feeling inspired. All the links and notes from this episode will be posted on my website, femalefluence.com. Don't forget to also follow me at Female Fluence on both Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, if you are in need of a woman empowerment life coach to help you identify the barriers that keep you from living the life you seek, please send an email to info@femalefluence.org. Remember, my friends, don't just exist, but live your life to the fullest. I'm your host, Pearl Mashur. Until we talk next time.